Well, we are now done. Welcome back to the Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. I am ready for walls. Just come out this morning, laid out the foundation for the, I put pins in. I don't know whether you can see them there. I'll come zero in. I drilled snap lines. Now obviously the rain's going to wash these off, but they can re-snap them now that the lines are in. You can see there I just put some cement screws in, but I have got it all lined out so where the cement walls are going, so they can come and set up their forms. I took down all of my forms for the laying out lines and whatnot. Got those all down out of the way so they can work around here. And I just wanted to do a quick video on how I squared and got everything lined up on this kind of tiered system, plus down in the basement. I think I've got everything pretty much on. The key thing was the batter boards. I guess that was the word I was looking for, what I took down. I'll tell you what I did is my batter boards, I had a line up at the ground level running all the way through, clear through up here over to I had batter boards over there. That gave me my back wall. So the back wall, and you can see the lines down there, and I'll go down here in a minute on the lower section. But once that back line was set, that's how I set everything else off it. This was the back wall. And this wall here of the garage is 2 feet offset. So there's going to be a jog in here for 2 feet. So all I did is off of that main line that I had running all the way through, I just had my batter board set with another mark at 2 feet over and ran the line back. And so that gave me the offset for this. Once I have that back line set, and all I did is wherever it dropped down, I just leveled down off the line. So my line was running through, I leveled down and put the marks. And you can see that's where I drilled the holes. So first thing I did is got this back line. So the back of the house is 40 feet. Then this is another 30 feet for the garage. Now, getting the easy, what I did is, and I'll show you how I squared this, but I just just leveled up off of that line, measured into my footer. So here it was like something like 44 inches from that line to there, and just took that off, or added that to my measurement to get 30 feet and come all the way down here to the 30-foot mark. And it was bang on, pretty much like 8 inches. It was a little bit off here, but it's not too bad. And ran again. This was all done with batter boards. So I want to show you how I got the main building squared. The easiest way I found to square that building. Because once I got this building squared, I had that back line, and I measured over this way and had this one set at 24. So I had 2 perpendicular lines, one running there and one running there. And all I did is I measured for that back line across there. I just measured off the line down there, 30 feet, because once this is squared, this was squared. And I actually checked the diagonals here across my 2 points, and I was within 1/4 of an inch or so. And so you've got a little bit of wiggle room you can work with on top of the walls. But I want to show you briefly how I did the squaring of that main building, because the main building is easier to square because you're all in one plane, as opposed to my garage, which had multiple levels. And I think I've got 3 steps on one side and 4 on the other. So I'll talk through it a little bit from up here, because you've got a little bit more, of visual. So as I said, when I got that off my batter boards, when I got that back line set, stepped over and continued it and got the back line on that, I basically come in 8 inches or so from my footer, because I knew the footer was fairly squared, the building was fairly squared. Once I drilled that pin right there, I just measured down 40 feet to my other pin. So now I've got the 40-foot mark. What I needed next was, where on this footer is it square? So how do I get this square? Again, I took a lot of time when I laid out my footers to get it as close as possible. So what I did, very easy, I know that this is 40 feet long, and I know that that back wall over here is 28 feet. So what I did is I measured 28 feet down here, put a mark across my footer. Measured 28 feet there, mark across the footer. Then I punched this into my calculator, and I just used the a squared c squared equals a squared plus b squared, in the sense of, you know, the square root of the two sides. So 40 times 40 plus 28 times 28, and then you take the square root of that, and that square root gave me, I think it was like 48 foot. I'm trying to do this off my head, top of my head. I think it was 48 feet, 9 and 15/16 or something like that. Okay, so here's the actual numbers that I'm using. Grab my. So what I did is, these pins, once I got that back line straightened all the way through, measured over the 2 feet there, and then measured off of that line. It's running this way. That's how I got my garage. But let's start with the house first. That back line was on my batter boards, leveled down, marked the concrete, marked my footers, put a pin, put a pin. Then what I did is I measured 28 feet, kind of marked across my footer, took that pin and went on the diagonal. So what I did is I used a squared plus b squared is c squared. That's, of course, your Pythagorean theorem. 28 squared plus 40 squared, 40 feet squared equals 48 foot 9 and 15/16. So off of this, I just took my 100-foot tape, and where that 48 foot 9 and 15/16 intersected the 28 foot mark, I put an X. Did the same thing here, and that way I could snap my line all the way through now to where, so this is not to scale, but to where my octagon was. So I just snapped that line on through. Could snap this line, and then because I had a pin there already at 28 feet, I just stretched the line across and snapped that line. Of course, this is open here. But that gave me a perfectly square building, 40 by 28. I already extended this one down. I knew what the distance was from here to here. It was 38 foot 6 inches. So I know this is 28 of it right here. So I just extended my line across, measured another 10 foot 6 inches. That would give me my 38.6. I measured there, and I drew a line. I know that based upon my graph work, this was at 33 foot, if I recall, 9, and this was 5 foot 9. And I know that these measurements, based upon my calculation of an octagon, and I don't have all the numbers to do that. You can find that online. I actually had my friend do it. Sorry, this is definitely not to scale. I'm doing it with one hand. That these were all going to be 6 foot 7 1/2. So that's what I measured. There, there, there. Once you find the center point here, it's just a matter of measuring it. Not a problem to lay it out. And so, yeah, that's how I got the octagon. Now, on this point here, because I just stepped in, I got that back line snapped, even though it was staggered down in 3 steps. I just took my line and leveled down on each step, straight down, and just joined everything. So, and then I measured from that wall out 30 feet. That wall, I had already had a batter board for the 24 feet from here to here. So I measured from there out 30 feet, drew a pin, and everything is square. And I actually checked what the square is here, and it was on as well. So once you get this and you got that back line, you've got the square. Everything works out. Took my 100-foot tape, measured over, marked it exact where it intersected the 28-foot mark. Went from that pin, come right over to the 28-foot mark there, mark that spot. Now my diagonals are bang on. Now some people will do a 6-8, a 6-8-10 or 3-4-5, and you can go on increments like 3-4-5, 6-8-10, 9-12-15, and so forth. And you can do that, but I wanted it that corner bang on what it was. So instead of just marking it down there at 15 or 20 feet, I went right to the 28, and that's the way you do it. You just, whatever your length is there and your length is there, just square that, and add them together. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and then just take the square root. And when you get that, you've got it bang on. And so once I got that pin marked, now I can snap my line across there. Now that this is square, that back wall and that back wall squared, I knew that when I measured off that from my garage, it's going to be squared. So that far wall down there is right off of these walls here. So everything is squared. Back line, as I said earlier in the video, is on just 2 feet over from this one. That one was 24 feet over there, and so I measured off that back wall, set that back wall over there. So I know I'm on. Now, as far as the octagon area, that was a little bit more work. I actually had one of my friends who is a mathematician do the calculations for me, but I just took an octagon, 8-sided figure, 16 feet across. She ran the numbers for me. It worked out roughly, just I'm rounded off, it was like 7 or 6'7.5" or something. I made it 6'8". It worked out well right there, and that's my octagon coming across. And all I did with that, once I had that line square, that line is actually just a continuation on, because 28 feet, I just ran it right straight through, drilled a hole here at 28. That was my square, my diagonal of this 28-foot square section. So what was the 48-foot 7 or whatever, can't remember the measurement right off the top of my head, whatever that diagonal was across there. Just snap my line straight through to this point. Once I got that line straightened, now all I need to do is run these numbers right along there. Now, how do I get that back line? Well, I knew that this was 38 foot, I believe 6 inches. So all I did is I ran my chalk line or dry line through at 28 feet to there, and I measured off of that dry line, come in, measured off 10'6", 10'6", because that's 28. Just added another 10'6". Now I have a parallel line to this line, and it was just a matter of now joining 6'8", 6'8", 6'8", wherever they intersect. From 6'8" to there, 6'8" to there, you're on. And so, yeah, it wasn't bad at all to get this laid out, because the main thing was having the making sure that everything on the footers was pretty much on. Now, if you have footers that are all over the place, and I know people pour them in the ground, they make them extra wide and stuff, but I was making these 2 foot wide, and I took the extra time laying out those footers. It made a big difference when I was laying out the walls. Now, the last thing that I did is just these bump outs. All I did is I ran a dry line measured in roughly 8 inches on my footer there. It was like 21.5 inches from that blue line to this one, and I just ran a dry line back here, drove a stake, make sure it was 21.5 inches, and I extended the line all the way out. Once I got that line, it's just a matter of measuring over. So fairly easy if I've laid out a few houses, well, several houses, but it's not bad. But the major thing is getting square and getting that footer in there correctly. So that back line was key. Once I got that back line in, 40 multiplied by 40 plus 28 multiplied by 28 diagonal, and then you get that diagonal in there, we're good to go. And there's no question about it, it's bang on. And when I measured this, it was within a 1/16. So as long as the guys who are pouring the cement walls follow those pins, we should be good. But that's for another video. I pray to God that they do, because right now everything is laid out perfectly, and I should have a nice square house. So we are expecting rain here in eastern Tennessee. As a matter of fact, I feel it spitting right now. So we're going to see how this fares now that I'm done. You notice I left some piles of crusher run right in the areas. That's when it starts raining. Anything that settles, I've got some extra crusher run there. I'm going to take my screed and I'm going to level this off and make sure it's all packed in good. It's going to be a couple weeks or 3 weeks before, easily before it's going to be ready for floor, because we haven't do the walls yet, and it's a couple weeks before the guys can get here to do the walls themselves. So I'm going to be doing other things. I'm not exactly sure what they are yet. I'm thinking about if they ever get my power here hooked up, that I would like to go and or like to bring out my big table saw and start working on doors. I do an interior door and get at least a prototype done. I have an idea of what I want to do, so that would be another video later, but get my prototype of my door done. And like I said, if it's a couple weeks, I may get several of my doors done and have them ready to go when I actually get building on the inside. So appreciate you joining me. Sorry if I'm rambling a bit, but I've tried to explain this as best as possible. Anyway, until next time, appreciate you joining me. If you would, please like and subscribe. Appreciate that, and pass the word along. But until next time, as always, you have a great day.